Hey, good morning, Patriots. It's another great day in the USA. It's good to see y'all showing up here. I'll be in the chat in a second as soon as things catch up. It's a busy week. A lot of things going on. We talked a lot about the issues of the day yesterday. We're going to be doing issues of the day again today. And without further ado, someone who does issues of every day is Chris Cordani. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Tony. Yes, that's right here. It's the Wolfman. I used to do a good Wolfman Jack, but I guess it's a little too early for that. It's the Wolfman here.
Did he pass? I thought he used to be great.
Yeah, he was great, TJ.
Yeah.
I'll refine that. I used to do a great Wolfman. I need to practice that a little more. But I'm saying
Yeah.
Good morning to the Patriots here on the chat. Waiting on Karen. Karen should be in very soon, so don't worry.
That's good.
Be here.
Good. And we've got Ruthie Blum today, right? Ruthie's going to join us.
Yes, it's a good time for her too, because Israel is going to go on a major offensive against Gaza, and there was the story about the hostage who was made to dig his own grave, and there was and Hamas is now desperate to get to the table, but we all know what happens every time Hamas says it will come to the table.
They don't. So, yeah, let's talk. I was talking about this on Newsmax earlier this morning. Hamas is never going to allow. They're never going to give up the hostages. They know that the moment they do, they're done. It's like that's the only leverage they have left. Therefore, they're never going to give it up. And this whole thing of we're going to do it. We're going to do it. No, it's Lucy in the football. Charlie Brown. You know, it's like no, they're never going to do it. The only resolution is going forward with the full occupation of Gaza. And I know people. I don't think anybody here in the Patriots get upset about that, because I think we all recognize it's the practical thing to do. But the rest of the world loses its mind every time they talk about full occupation. It's like, okay, and I've used this metaphor before. And let's see, Chris, let's use a metaphor of where you're at. You guys are close to Connecticut, right?
Yes, I know it's. The liberal sentiment of just
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So say Connecticut had a terrorist group called the People's Liberation of New York.
I know what it's called. It's called the DeLorean campaign.
Yeah, the DeLorean campaign. Say the DeLorean campaign started lobbing rockets into New York and coming close to your house. Do you think even Kathy Hochul? You think even Kathy Hochul would stand for the residents of New York being bombarded by people from Connecticut? No way.
And the reason being, any bombs sent from the DeLorean campaign to New York would turn people into angry women with purple hair and
one-eyed purple people eaters.
Right,
one-eyed purple people eaters. It's all
and make them dress more gaudy than I'd say more gaudy than Joy Behar. There we go.
Yeah.
Karen,
speaking of people who aren't gaudy, good morning, Karen.
Good morning. I hope I have decent audio. I was having some issues with my audio this morning. That's why it took me 15 minutes
to sound good.
It's a little rough, to be honest with you. I mean, you might want to turn the microphone portion up, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
So Karen, we were just talking about purple people eaters being from Connecticut, turning people into New York into hideous monsters. Well, I guess you've already got hideous monsters in New York, right, Chris? You don't need new ones.
Yeah. She was actually in my neck of the woods, and I missed it the other day. What's her name? Kathy Hochul. Our mayor, who's a Democrat, obviously, was showing him around the city because they have nice little red bricks on the crosswalks nowadays. So he's showing her around. Obviously, the place around where his business is. I'm not going to say anything horrible about Mayor DeStefano because he's really not that bad of a mayor. He's just on the national front, he's a Democrat hack. But on the other hand, he has not been a bad mayor. But the fact that she was here, and she probably didn't even bother to visit the Otisville State Prison, this is Rose DeLauro. It's the DeLauro bomb. But Hochul didn't even bother to. Hochul didn't even bother to visit the Otisville State Prison. And that bothers me a little bit too.
Well, she will eventually. They all end up there.
No, I mean, she's the one. She's the one who was making COs recently do triple shifts. They were mandating this. She's trying to close prisons. She took away a lot of the striking COs benefits away. It was a big mess and
Yep.
fired several of them. The administration's been a monster to the COs and to the prison system there. It's just been awful. But
I agree with you,
with
but I don't want to get from one monster to another. So she's a monster, no doubt. But my point being, and Karen, we were talking about this before you rolled in, was that if Delorio was the head of the Connecticut version of Hamas, there she is. I think she is an evil villain. Say this is all theory. If she was running, I don't know, the Connecticut franchise of Hamas, I guess she could do that, right? And she was like firing missiles from Connecticut into New York. We wouldn't stand for that. We would support New York going in and stopping the acts of terror, right? Am I right about that? Of course we do, right?
It's an embarrassment. I mean, look at her. I just put the picture back up because do we need to even say anything else? I mean,
just
it's
keep
so
in mind,
clear.
Karen, people are eating breakfast. People are eating breakfast, Karen. So I'm going to try to do this carefully.
I know. It just seems so
anyway,
clear.
My point being is that if we would not stand for Delorio firing into New York, nor should we stand for Hamas firing into Israel.
Right.
And it's time for Israel to act in its own self-interest. And I'm frankly surprised. There's Governor Hochul in her old days.
I'd say she wouldn't.
It's terrible, and you have so many of these people that, represent large portions of the Jewish community in this country, whether you look at Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, this is where the majority of anti-Semitism in this country is taking place.
Right.
And in large part because of these Jewish representatives that have turned their back on their own religion and their own heritage and choose to instead take the side of evil. I mean, this is where it begins. If you don't have 100% respect for Israel, I have no respect for you.
So Bernie Sanders is one of the biggest offenders. Bernie, I've never seen a communist. I didn't like Sanders. Was talking about, I guess, a year ago, and he was asked on NBC. I think it was Kirsten Walker. Kirsten, you didn't play. Did you play this yesterday? Someone played it when I was doing an interview, and basically they asked him, "Do you believe that Hamas is stealing food from its people?" And he actually said, "No." It's like, of course they are. Of course they're stealing food. They've made $500 million off the food they've stolen, and yet somehow Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, right? Karen, he's a Jew, right?
My point exactly.
He's diminishing the importance of holding Hamas accountable. Why would you do that? I don't get it.
I think because he's going to be dead soon. I mean, that's my opinion. Is I think these people are at their last hurrah and they don't care about anything anymore. Like, I can't find another explanation on why you would take, your career in politics, turn your back on the very things that make you who you are, and then support somebody like AOC. Like, I almost think that they get so caught up in the fame and the pompousness of it all that they really have no grasp on reality. And as they see their biological clocks ticking and the twilight of their lives approaching, they just choose evil. And I don't know what's going to happen to Bernie Sanders when he meets his maker and how this is going to turn out for them. I mean, I'll include Chuck Schumer in my rant, but I think that they're all really on the side of evil. And at the end of the day, it's not going to serve them well. And especially if you're Jewish and then you don't support Israel and you don't think that under any circumstances, what Hamas is doing is wrong. And, Hamas, these are not their people. These are people whose lives have been taken over by an authoritarian terrorist regime. Just imagine. So, the whole thing is so convoluted, but the Democrats are at the root of all the evil. That's my take. I'll sum it all up right there.
Let me ask that, because I'm going to ask Ruthie again, because I've had this discussion. I still don't get it. There's a lot of Jews who are, to your point, Democrats.
Yeah.
The Democrats have done nothing but embrace the enemies of Jews. What? It just boggles the mind. This is like me living here in my county, and every time something happens, the sheriff goes out and arrests innocent people for crimes the other side committed. I mean, how is it that you guys aren't outraged by the behavior of your own party, of the Democrat Party, of their own party, I should say, not your party. Your party is our party, but I'm saying, why is it? And Joy Behar.
I was going to say, here we have another leftist Jewish woman who is on the side of evil. I mean, there's so many.
It's obvious. These people know where their bread is buttered. These people know the money's coming from up top somewhere, and you have to go along. Now,
but you can't take money when you die, Chris. When you die,
but that's the whole
money
thing.
Doesn't go with you.
Right, but still, they're still alive right now. They still like that celebrity, as to both of your points here. They like the fame, and they like the fact that they get their cushy.
Money is the root of all evil, Chris. Money is the root of all evil.
I would say.
And by the way, Red Bull says in the chat that Bernie and Dana Bash were near a lap dance. No. The lap dance came later. She gave Bernie a lap dance. That's off camera.
And that's entirely possible. I mean, this woman will do anything for money, and she's an actress. So, maybe stripper is her next, hurrah.
No,
who knows?
No.
Could be.
What are you doing? You're making me put pictures of Deloro, and now you're making people imagine Joy Behar as a stripper. I mean,
I was actually going at AOC. I was imagining AOC as a stripper, but either way,
But Behar is hideous. Have you seen her without makeup? I mean, there's pictures about her. She and Kathy Griffin. I mean,
I don't want to bash another woman without makeup, because quite frankly, the reason that I was a couple minutes late is because I had to slap some stuff on my face before joining you. But, going back to the Judaism thing, I think it's so important to note, as you were saying it, I was thinking to myself just how watered down our religion became. It started slowly. It's sort of like, how people, in alternative lifestyles, let's talk about people who are gay or lesbian. They don't support drag queens that are reading.
But Karen, there is no more a progressive country regarding gays, lesbians, sleeping with whoever you want than Israel. And that's what I don't get. It's like, but they're trying to destroy the very center of enlightenment. That's what I'm saying. It's like you can be a fundamentalist Jew. What do you call them? The guys with the funny hair and the hats.
Oh yeah, that's the Hasidic.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, Orthodox would be the term that I think you're going for, but we also call it observant. If you're observant and you're following the religious
you can go. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can be anywhere on the religious spectrum, either very, very traditional or not at all. But the very country where this is permitted, they're trying to destroy. What sense does that make? I don't get it.
Because Jewish people are enlightened for the most part. People who are religious, people that wear payas, people that commit to truly following a religion in the way that it was intended, which people at the Chabad do, Orthodox religious people do, people that are on the side of the spectrum of what the religion was built on, they are accepting because they realize in the end that their faith has to be in God and not another human being. And those are the people that every Jewish person, in my opinion, should be modeling themselves after. I happen to go to a Chabad. I sit on the side with the women. I don't sit with the men. I pray very silently. I do things to connect myself to God spiritually. And I have the absolute utmost respect for anybody who's willing to make the commitment to change your lifestyle, to follow a kosher diet, to wear traditional garments, to do all the things that these people do. And meanwhile, you know what they're doing? You know what the Chabad is doing? You know the most beautiful thing about the really religious Jews? They are repopulating all of the people that were killed in the Holocaust. And when the Rebbe came forward and the Lubavitch movement really started, and the Ashkenazi Jews came out of Europe, and they realized that they had 6 million people that were murdered, you know what the Rebbe said? The Rebbe said, get back to basics. Raise your kids. Don't use birth control. Follow God. Follow religion. Have 10 children if that's what God intended for you to do. And I just think it's absolutely beautiful to watch this ancient, gorgeous religion thrive in the more religious environments. But then we have the drag queen story hour, and we have the Reformed Jews. They do not really represent the state of Israel. They don't really represent my religion for me. They are people that have just bashed bastardized everything, and they are on the wrong side of history.
Well, that's true, and I get that, and I respect the fact that you have a deep and abiding faith, and I don't question that. What I question is why Jews who are open to the drag queen story hour allowing for the enemies of Jerusalem to go after him. And by the way, just for the record, I go to the hibachi for worship, and I get a lot of really tasty shrimp and chicken. So, but that's
none of which are kosher. That's not kosher.
None of which are kosher.
I have the answer to this, Tony. No, I actually have the answer to this question. I really do. Because you both talked about religion, and that's the important thing. Religion. Right. For people like Chuck Schumer, Joy Behar, and Bernie Sanders, their religion is no longer Judaism. Their religion is the state. Their religion is
socialism. That's right. Socialism, the state.
Politics, okay? So they're following that religion. That religion tells you, it dictates to the masses that there are two classes of people: oppressors, generally white oppressor colonizers, and victims. So the idea is Western Europe, U.S., and Canada, those who follow politics as a religion, had put Israel in the class of oppressor, and put the doesn't matter who, but put the Arab people in the class of the colonized, the victims. So no matter what happens, Hamas, the so-called victims, had actually perpetrated the event that started this war. It was like a mini Holocaust, if you will, because they just went out and killed a bunch of random kids, random elderly people. That's what they did, and nobody talks about that because the religion.
They're still killing them now, Chris. They're still killing them now.
But the religion tells them. The religion is telling everybody here in the West, or even the so-called the ginos, if you will, Jewish and name only types, that you can't support your own people because they're the oppressors. And the religion tells you not to do that.
Well, that's
you
insane.
Have to follow it that
but
way. That's the reason.
I know, but let's get to words from the Jewish carpenter Jesus real quick.
Yes,
I was going to say, I can't think of a better segue into Jesus calling, and you guys have to give me just a minute.
Yeah, and then I want to go back to this discussion because this is something that I want the Patriots to really focus on: is that there's a whole group of people within the religion who will become essentially communists and Marxists and abandon the faith. And that's Chuck Schumer. That's all of them, really. All right, I'm sorry, Karen. Go ahead.
And let's not forget that Jesus was Jewish at his roots. He was a Jew. Right. And Jesus taught us, even if you're not a follower of a Jesus and you're somebody who identifies that you're not Christian, you can appreciate the fact that Jesus taught us more about God. This is the part that escapes me when people don't embrace Jesus and his teachings. Again, as somebody who was raised in a very observant Jewish Orthodox world, I couldn't wait to learn about Jesus because it's magical. And today, Jesus calling is also magical. So I'm going to read it to all of you. And let's think about it a little bit. Come to me when you are weak and weary. Rest snugly in my everlasting arms. I do not despise your weakness, my child. Actually, it draws me closer to you because weakness stirs up my compassion, my yearning to help. Accept yourself in weariness, knowing that I understand how difficult your journey has been. Don't compare yourself with others who seem to skip along their life paths with ease. Their journeys have been different from yours. I have gifted them with abundant energy. I have gifted you with being fragile, providing opportunities for your spirit to blossom in my presence. Accept this gift as a sacred treasure, delicate yet glowing with brilliant light. Rather than struggling to disguise or deny your weakness, allow me to bless you richly for it. So beautiful way to start the day, guys. Amen to that.
Absolutely. Well, I want to continue our discussion then because, Jesus, the Jewish carpenter, a great example of faith and fortitude. He made it through, forgave all, died for our sins. But I want to go back to this whole idea about what happens after people die, because this is something that seems to be lost on Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, all these people who are pure evil. I mean, they act with evil in their heart. And I'm sorry, when you see Nancy Pelosi being a good Catholic, I mean, come on. She's not a good Catholic. I think she's a good something, but I can't say it on the air because I'll get in trouble. And then you've got Bernie Sanders and company who have literally made the state, the environmental hoax and the state as their religions. They believe in this environmental crisis which doesn't exist, and they want the state, the equivalent of Jesus, their Jesus is the state, to come in and fix it. So my issue is, why don't we help instruct others, Karen, to wake up and leave the plantation? Because these people are going to kill people by the fact that they're trying to basically deceive people. They're the great deceivers. I think there's scripture about deceivers and stuff, and yet they seem to be winning the battle in many ways.
It's biblical for sure. I mean, we're living right now through a biblical, foreshadowing that we all need to be aware of, and if you study scripture and you look at what God has told us, we're seeing that unfold right before our eyes. And we see evil embodied in all of these people that don't really believe in God. And I think that is the first and foremost problem that you have, is that you summed it up really well in saying that the state is their Jesus, right?
Yeah.
The state is their savior. The government, the almighty, the person who's going to bail them out. And they want to sell this false narrative to the young, to people who are impressionable, to people who maybe don't have the faith and don't believe in God. And I think for me, as I get older, and I think our chat will totally agree, and I need to get in there, that, my faith has become stronger. And in that way, I realize how important it is that we have to inspire others to have faith. And for me, that doesn't mean that I have to tell somebody to follow the same protocols that I do to find my spirituality, but it certainly means that we're not going to worship the almighty state, or money being the root of all evil, the devil. And these people, when you talk about Chuck Schumer, you talk about, Nancy Pelosi, they are Satanists, whether they realize it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Because the deity that they worship is power. And at the end of the day, God has been very clear that that's not what you're supposed to do here on earth.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because there's a difference between Satanists and Luciferians. Luciferians are even more evil, because they believe they're quote unquote the light bringer. They actually believe, and they don't like talking about it, because obviously the moment you expose this to the light of day, they're like vampires. They'll just kind of burn up. But Luciferians have a deep and abiding belief that that God is literally wrong, that they're the ones who believe that through pain, they can be the ones who give you salvation. And it's like, pain does not bring salvation unless you have some sort of a forgiveness at the end of it. And it's really evil. It's evil. It's all evil. And so these people, I think, really do believe in the dark forces, and they do use money for purposes of their belief. Now, I think we can all agree.
Look at Scientology, Tony. Look at Hollywood and Scientology. I mean, what you just said to me, I'm in my head, I'm screaming, Scientology.
Yeah, well,
because that basically they put it out there. I mean, they package it really nicely, right? But at the end of the day, they took God out of the equation. They basically removed God. And when you remove God, then who are you serving?
But Karen, there's spaceships up there waiting on you in Scientology. You just have to get to the level.
Well, and the Nation of Islam.
Listen, and I like spaceships. I'm all for the extraterrestrial factor. I do think that God is supernatural. I do think that somehow we come from other planets in this great and magical universe that we don't really.
Yeah. I think you can circle that square. Yeah, you can circle the square. I believe in Graham Hancock. I believe that there were civilizations here long before. Yeah. I think God has been way more creative than we give him credit for. Just saying, I think there's way more life. And you can, there's actually great evidence. Even Einstein figured out at the end, it's like, oh my God, this doesn't work without God. None of this works. None of this physics, none of this, it's like the idea that you get, and there's something called the God particle, which is
the split lens experiment. Are we going to go to the split lens experiment?
Are we
going to get geeky on the show this morning? I love it.
Well, maybe we join the Friends of Venus with Exodore or somebody like that. Or you can join Nancy Pelosi's church over here.
That's right. The Church of Vodka.
There's a reason they call it spirits, guys. There's a reason they call it spirits, right? Yeah. Have you ever heard about that? I mean, and I think that that's very true. I think that, you allow a certain amount of possession to take over you when you ingest the substance that changes your brain. I don't care what substance that
Right.
is, but you're letting other things in, supernatural things in. That's why they call it spirits. What are you letting in? What are you doing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker. I will drink. I'm not,
I
a
don't
totally
drink.
sober person. Right. I know you don't drink.
No.
But I definitely think that it has to be handled carefully. And I think when you look at a lot of these people that are in power, they have one thing in common. They have addictions, Tony. They have addictions.
Well, look at what happened with Paul Pelosi and his having that guy over to sing "If I Had a Hammer." He got a hammer, right, Chris?
Addictions. Right. Again, sex addiction, liquor addiction.
There's a lot.
There's always Bob Dobbs. There's the guy for you from the Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, slam dunk that Dobbs head in you.
Yeah. So, but I want to hit the issue with. So, by the way, I have to admit I'm addicted to something. It has to do with alcohol, but it's not alcohol. It's all the damn body camera footage from arrest of drunk people. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, my God.
That is entertaining.
My goodness sakes. I have seen.
Well, as somebody who's yelled at an officer and been on a body cam footage before, I can tell you that things get really heated at a traffic stop. Things get heated.
I'm sure. Well, it's interesting, but to your point, it's like, everything in moderation. These other people don't understand moderation. And this is the other thing, too. They will use, and I'm doing a talk on this. It was just announced. I think I'm doing a talk on the 16th of September over at the county over next to us, over in Clemens, to the Women's Republican group. You guys will see it on my Facebook. It's on my Facebook now. I just haven't reposted it. And I'll be talking about the nature of the left. The nature of the left examines the fact that people are vulnerable, and they take those vulnerabilities and they franchise them. Like Nancy Pelosi, there's a great video of Nancy Pelosi doing the franchising of the smear. They do this stuff. Anything that's evil, they will franchise it. So they will take human frailty, and they will basically turn it into a money-making enterprise. Look at Gavin Newsom and homelessness in California. Karen, they have made billions of dollars off the pain and suffering of drug addicts. They keep saying, "Oh, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. Just give us $10 more billion." They get the money. They fund all these think tanks, and nothing gets done. Oh no, they have franchised pain and suffering. That's what they do.
They have paid to enable drug use. Think about that too. They have actually allowed people to poison themselves and have spent money in order to do so with these programs where they give out needles, they give out drugs, they do all these things. They don't care about these people. Nope. They care about an agenda. Again, that purpose that they serve, that money is the root of all evil. That's Satan that they worship, right? Yep. Because why else would you do that? Why would you enable somebody to poison themselves? Why would you enable somebody to continue living in an environment that is detrimental to them, right? So they look at these homeless people, and instead of saying, what can I do to help this human being have a better quality of life? Their philosophy is that's how they choose to live. And then they do stuff like turn around and say that's true freedom. That's not. That's evil right there. That's evil.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's something we have to recognize. And this goes back to what's going on right now. We all started off with Hamas in Connecticut and Della Rosa. Is that her name?
Deloro.
Chris, yes. Could we send her?
Rose DeLauro.
Yeah. Rose DeLauro, could we send her as an export somewhere? Could we export? Could we have ICE take her somewhere? Is that possible?
We could have Trump threaten Putin this weekend in Alaska to say, if you don't get a deal done, I'm going to send DeLauro to your country, and you have to deal with her. You have to go.
She ought to be on hand as like standing outside, standing outside, not doing anything, just standing there. And when Trump walks in, it's like, you saw what's out there, right? We're going to stick that on you if you don't listen. So anyway. That's right. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ruthie. So Ruthie Blum's here to join this conversation on what we've been talking about all morning, Hamas. So Ruthie, I don't want to get you in trouble, but we believe that Rosa, what's her name again?
Rose DeLorio. See, she's forgettable.
Rose DeLorio. I think we believe that she runs the Connecticut version of Hamas. Do you think that's true? I think it's true.
Yeah, and you know what? Even if she doesn't, I think a good place for her to go to would be Gaza.
Yeah, well, so that's what I'm going to talk about. So we started off the morning talking about the fact that there's no way we would never, United States internally would never permit Connecticut, led by the Hamas version of whatever her name is. If there was a Hamas in Connecticut, which there kind of is, and they started attacking New York, we would never permit them to keep hostages or continue to fire rockets into New York. That we just wouldn't. It would never be done. It would have been resolved quickly. And so why is the American people or the left upset about Israel potentially going in to end Hamas as a terrorist organization? Why can they be upset about this? I don't get it.
Okay, well, I just want to correct you for a second. When you said America would never put up with hostages, Jimmy Carter put up with hostages.
Well,
but
he lost his race.
He doesn't.
He lost.
Yeah,
that's like saying Jimmy Kimmel is funny.
For sure, the Trump administration would not put up with that. I'm not so sure about the Biden administration. So I just wanted
that's true.
For the sake of accuracy.
That's true.
Why is it? It isn't just the hostages. If you talk about Europe, right? Europe, aside from being dead, okay, because Europe has zero population growth or minus population growth other than Muslim immigrants. They're having a lot of babies. And Europe always has had this view that somehow attacks on Israel by Palestinians are justified because of this so-called occupation. They don't know history, or they know it and they don't care. They ignore the history, which is that Israel doesn't occupy Judea and Samaria. First of all, it certainly doesn't occupy Gaza. It evacuated every last Jew from Gaza in 2005. But where Judea and Samaria is concerned, and what people call the West Bank, that was occupied by Jordan. And the Six-Day War, Israel won the Six-Day War. It was assaulted from all sides and won the Six-Day War. And the Golan Heights had been occupied by Syria, and the Judea and Samaria had been occupied by Jordan, and Gaza had been occupied by Egypt. So this occupation, nobody seemed to bother about that. Furthermore, so everybody, all Israelis, left, right, and center, and all people in the world say, oh, yes, we're so brokenhearted over the hostages. But the difference is that the left believes that there is some kind of imaginary deal that all we have to do is say to Hamas, okay, fine, give us all the hostages and we'll give you all your terrorists back. And then we'll have a deal. First of all, there is no such deal on the table. But even if there were, Hamas's demands are that it remain in power, that Israel withdraw completely, that Hamas continues to build its tunnel network and terrorist and recruit terrorists, etc., and get billions of dollars in rehabilitation money. So there is no such deal. And that's the problem here. Then, of course, Israel being vilified, we know that partially anti-Semitism is to blame. That we know because we saw that on October 8th, 2023, before Israel had even responded to the horrific atrocities, anti-Semitism just exploded all over U.S. campuses, all over Europe, etc.
Well, I have a two-part question. First off, I think the anti-Semitism, Ruthie, is based a lot, especially on campuses in the United States, on the BDS movement. And as you know, my old boss, Dr. Herb London, God rest his soul, wrote a book on BDS. Ruthie, I don't think people understand that there's been a huge and continuous PSYOP / divestment movement called BDS for decades. How do we get people to pay attention to this? Because I think that, and I said this multiple times over the past 24 hours, I think you have international ignorance that's been perpetrated by the left using this BDS movement. So how do we get people to wake up to the fact that this is not new? This is simply, something that's been orchestrated by the American left by the way, Jews in the American left, like Bernie Sanders, who have been co-conspirators. How do we get people to wake up to BDS and the fact that we're seeing the end effect of that right now?
Well, as you point out, first of all, this is decades in the making.
Yeah.
Just as the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO was founded in 1964, 3 years before the Six-Day War. So the idea that somehow it all was a response to Israeli occupation, that's also a lie. When you ask, how can you get them to understand it? Well, that means that you think people want to understand something or be educated. Also, don't forget, this movement, this anti-Israel movement, is heavily funded by Qatar. And Qatar is a so-called mediator in the hostage ceasefire negotiations. It's insane. Okay, Qatar is the Middle East's ATM. It funds Al Jazeera to spread lies. It funds all the demonstrations on U.S. college campuses, etc. So when you ask, how do we get people to understand? I think that the people you want to aim for when you're explaining this, and as Herb London, books like Herb London's, are for the people who already in their gut know you're right, and they need evidence, and they need backing, and they need to feel they're not alone. And I would say that's true of kids on college campuses who feel under assault by this mixture of woke left and Islamist ideology, this marriage.
Yeah.
And it's a real assault, not just on Jews. Okay, really, it's also on Christians, but it's also on any conservative, on anybody who doesn't agree with them. And so what you need to do is equip people who know better, but they don't necessarily know all the facts or the history, but they know who the good guys are. So you can aim at
we were
them.
talking about the good guys and bad guys, Ruthie, but that's part of the problem. I mentioned earlier that Bernie Sanders was interviewed about a year ago, asked by Kirsten Welker on one of the interviews, like, do you believe that Hamas is stealing food from its people? Oh, no. Well, it's a lie. We know Hamas was stealing the food and selling it back to the people. Again, I asked this question earlier. How do we deal with people who were Jews, like Bernie Sanders, who basically are out to destroy the very fabric and faith of the people that you would think he'd want to protect? How do we deal with people like him?
Well, for one thing, you need Jews like me to attack them because
that's true, and we appreciate that.
It's better when it comes from other Jews, right? Because if you attack them,
that's right.
Say, oh, there they go, there he is, like a Tucker Carlson or something. Okay, what you need is conservative Jew, not only Jews, but again, when it comes from Jews, I think it's more. It has more weight. And here's the thing. My father several years ago wrote a book called "Why Are Jews Liberals?" And basically, his conclusion was that the reason is that their religion is liberalism, not Judaism. And what are we
or money or the government? And
it's insane. But worse than Bernie Sanders, I have to attack now the Israeli left. Because Bernie Sanders is bad enough. Okay, he's a Jew, but Jews have always been left wing. We know that. It's just the way it is. Okay, but when you have Israelis, former generals, former prime ministers, former heads of Mossad and Shin Bet, you have those guys coming out and basically saying horrific things like, yes, we're committing war crimes in Gaza, and all because they hate Bibi Netanyahu. They are committing what I call treason. People argue with me and they say, well, that's not really treason but I think it's supplying the enemy with weapons, and therefore I call it treason. But you see, when it comes from Israelis, then of course, they're lapped up by foreign universities and you see Israelis and your own newspaper Haaretz, it also says that.
Right.
So they're worse. They're worse by far than Bernie Sanders, because these are guys who fought in Gaza, who themselves are decorated and all that, and who were at the helm of the country.
Well, I don't understand, and that's my point. It's like Hamas has said, as a matter of policy, the end of the Israeli state and the Jews is the objective. That's it, river to the sea. So to your point then, Ruthie, how do people who basically know that you have sworn enemies out to kill you, how do you leave them to exist? I don't understand that. Do they not understand this as an existential threat?
Clearly they don't. But part of the reason is that if you hear those kids on college campuses, I don't know, they're not always kids, by the way, but
right.
They act like children, yelling, chanting from the river to the sea. And when someone asks them which river and which sea, they don't even know that it's not the Hudson River.
Of course.
Right. So that's part of it, right? But listen, I could ask you the same question. How do rational people believe that someone who decides when he's 4 years old that he's not the gender he was born with, how is that rational? Or how?
Oh no, we're with you on that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier.
We're talking about the left here. That's not rational.
Yeah, Ruthie, I want to read, guys. I want to read from the chat because George brought up a really interesting point. Born to Ride for 45. I want to read it to Ruthie. Basically, it says the path of Islam is always the same. Number 1, establish a mosque. Number 2, create an enclave. Number 3, grow the population. Number 4, this is an important one, resist the authorities. Number 5, institute Sharia. Number 6, succeed. Number 7, take the country. So I think that pretty much nails it for a lot of us, Ruthie.
It certainly does. And what's really tragic, aside from everything else, the whole thing is tragic. But what's really, disgusting, I would say, is that these woke lefties in America and Europe and Australia and name it, okay, and at the UN, they really believe that they will be safe from these monsters. They're not. Do you realize that on October 7th, many of the Israelis kidnapped and slaughtered were on the left? They were people who said we need peace with the Palestinians. They were people who
the Nova Festival was.
They were at a music festival, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
At a music festival, it's like raiding a Grateful Dead concert.
It wasn't
rounding up the hippies, right?
It wasn't just a music festival. They were going to kibbutzes where families were just there's elderly people and children there too.
But I want to hit that point, Chris.
Right.
So Ruthie, I want to hit that point because so much of what we're talking about right now is looking at this thing practically. We're trying to be steely-eyed and clear. So when we talk about this leftist view of Islam and they're like dismissing its threat, they literally give the power to Islam to kill them. That's what happened at the Nova Festival. Like, this will never happen, and it happens. But that's what I'm worried about now. As we examine the facts. So one of the facts I often bring up, I brought it up last night on Newsmax, is this whole idea that there's a genocide. Now, Ruthie, Karen at the beginning of the show talked about after World War II, there was a reinvigoration of the Jewish faith. Go procreate. So even with procreation, if you're doing it constantly, just saying a good thing, there's no way 9 million Jews can conduct a genocide against 400 million Arabs. So how does this happen? That there's a genocide. It's like, excuse me, there are 400 million Arabs. There's 9 million Jews. The numbers simply don't add up. So how do we address this? Because I can't get people to pay attention.
Well, one way to address, if they're talking just about Gaza, which is so tiny, that you can hardly.
That's still not a genocide.
Right? No.
Genocide is a
let me put it this way: you can't find Israel on the map without a magnifying glass. Gaza, you need multiply that magnifying glass. Okay, it's tiny. If Israel and the IDF had wanted to commit genocide, believe me, it would take 5 minutes. Okay, as Ambassador Huckabee said, if Israel's committing genocide, it's doing a really crappy job of it. And,
exactly.
There's a reason for this, though. I want to throw this into all of you. Genocide is a term that's been thrown around by the left to evoke emotion. That's what it's saying. Oh, those darn Israelis, they're horrible. Netanyahu should be hung because war crimes, blah, blah, blah. Because these liberals hear the word genocide and immediately they're thinking the Holocaust. Immediately they're thinking, well, they're not thinking the Armenian genocide because nobody around here talks about that, but you understand where I'm going here. And then this is why the left throws around the word racist and homophobe and everything. And later on, those terms kind of wear down. But the fact is, they use them to evoke emotion from enough people, just to scare, I guess, to scare Western leaders enough to side with the, well, at this point, Hamas, the terrorists. And let's throw in one more thing. Can I throw in one more thing? I believe a lot of these European nations are terrified.
I think that the left talks about the Holocaust in a way that's completely convoluted as well. I think that we've sort of seen, thank God, a little bit of a revitalization of teaching our kids about the Holocaust. But, I bet you, just like, they stop these kids on the street and they ask them about America and, they ask them about the river to the sea, they ask these leftists. If we started questioning people about what actually happened in the Holocaust, Ruthie, we're going to get a lot of different answers instead of really what's the truth. And the truth, Chris, is that was a genocide, right, Ruthie?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. But you see, this is the trick of the left. And Jews should be ashamed of themselves for joining in this.
Agree.
And it is that they universalize the Holocaust. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. All mass murder is terrible. And it was terrible what the Nazis did. And so Jews, you Israelis, better not do that too. It's also, you notice that what they'll do is minimize the amount of Jews killed in the Holocaust by saying, oh, well, Russians were killed in the Holocaust and gypsies were killed in the Holocaust, which is true. Okay. It's not that it's not true. It's that the motive behind saying it is ill-willed. And you're absolutely right. So ignorance is one thing. But, Andy McCarthy, decades ago, wrote about this marriage between the Islamists and the left. And as peculiar as it is, you've even seen in some demonstrations where you'll have gays for Gaza at a demonstration with Palestinian flags, and some somebody with Arab ethnicity will go up to that gay person and say, "Get the hell out of here! You're disgusting!" And we don't accept that. And honestly, they would be tarred and feathered in Gaza.
Exactly.
But it's not just Hamas. The Palestinian Authority is just as bad. The Palestinian Authority,
of course,
and that's why Netanyahu said neither Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority can later rule Gaza, because the Palestinian Authority pays for slaves, and its school books are the ones that Hamas kids are raised.
Well, let me say something that's apparent. I think that people don't want to accept. Ruthie, there's been a de facto two-state solution in effect for the past 40, 50 years. It didn't work. The second state did not want to exist because it was constantly trying to destroy the other state. Is that accurate? I mean, you had So we need to step away from that, because they keep saying, two-state solution. It's like, no. You had a de facto two-state solution. The progressive left and Hamas and the Palestinians, they destroyed it. So let's get past that. It's not going to work. And the other thing, I don't understand why we don't demand this. Ambassador Huckabee does. I think others do. Any state that is next to or adjacent to Israel must give up as its central premise the destruction of the Jewish state. Right? How do we allow any organization to do that? Because we have, and we funded, the United States funded the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. We funded this nonsense, and yet somehow we permitted these organizations, which said as a predicate, we want to end the Jewish state. We funded this. This is insanity. Am I missing something?
You're not missing anything, and I would like to give praise to President Trump for a moment, because he started defunding, not only as defunding the universities that he said, I'm sorry, you're not getting federal funding when you're, spewing anti-Semitism, etc. But he also defunded UNRWA. He's going after them. And the reason I'd like to praise him, other than that he deserves it for that, is that he is standing up to swaths of his base that are attacking him for that. Okay. He's got MAGA. I mean, he had to say at one point, hey, I invented it. I know what MAGA is. I'm MAGA.
Exactly.
So don't tell me what it means. Okay.
Yeah.
And Israelis who really are enamored, they're just thrilled with Trump. We all say making America great again is good for the world. It's not isolationist. It's that when America
it's not.
Powerful,
it's not.
When it's powerful, the enemies back down. That's when you have an absence of war. When enemies see a weak America and a weak Israel, that's when they pounce. So making America great again is an imperative, but I totally disagree with those on in the MAGA movement who are really going against that. And Trump is standing up to them.
I'm fascinated by that too, because some of those folks who are kind of going in the wrong direction, I consider friends, and I'm sitting there scratching my head. It's like, how do you not get that Hamas is the bad guy here? Really bad guy. I mean, evil, pure evil.
Well, it's the reporting. It's the reporting, though.
And to hold back. And so, and this is my issue. Again, I'm going back to the start of the show. We would never permit, like right now under President Trump, for Connecticut to be attacking New York. It's like, no. You can't do that. We're not going to permit you. And we would go in and end the threat. And so right now, the proposal is, as I understand it, Bibi has said they're going to conduct a series of military operations to end Hamas, period. And by the way, I'm on record saying on air, they shouldn't stop in Gaza. They need to go after Hamas anywhere they're at, to include Qatar, UAE, anywhere. Just like back in the 70s, when certain groups went after people who committed acts of terror and assassinated them. I'm sorry, I'm just going to be blunt. I think that's justified. You cannot permit the people who funded that evil to just go untouched. Ruthie, am I being too extreme here by saying that? I mean,
no, and don't use that word extreme with me. And from our positions, we actually are on the side of the good guys. Okay, that's not an extreme position. That's a logical, rational position. The extremists are on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And I refuse to hear it. It's ridiculous. The point is, though, that Israel always, I got to tell you, this is my problem with Jews and Christians. Okay. Jews always say, let's not make waves. I have to say, in the Bible, from the days of the Bible, when Moses led the Jews out of Egypt, they said, maybe we should go back there. Okay. And Christians say, turn the other cheek. Now, both those tendencies are not really great for defeating enemies bent on your annihilation.
I know. Yeah.
Get out of the mindset. And that, I'm not saying you have to stop believing in the Bible, the New Testament or the Old Testament. What I'm saying is you have to remember that those in the Bible, there's also other passages that say defeat your enemy, etc. And I think we really need to bring that to modern times, because it's a knee-jerk reaction that let's just make nice with everybody. And it doesn't work. It has the opposite effect. So, and what we've seen in the past, when you look at the Vietnam War, okay?
Yeah.
It was very just war, but America lost it. It wasn't prepared for that kind of guerrilla warfare, etc.
Right.
And when it ended, the whole country was demoralized. And by the way, the left today, they're such hypocrites, because they used to spit on the soldiers who came back from Vietnam, and now they say, "Oh, thank you for your service," and all that. You want to throw up when you hear their hypocrisy. But when you have a victory, a clear victory, it raises morale and it increases patriotism. And that's certainly true of Israel. I think what you have to do is win the war. You have to defeat your enemies and stop trying to make deals with them all the time.
Well, that's the thing. And so I appreciate your mentioning the unconditional victories of World War II, because I think that was necessary. It's where you leave things to linger. Like, for example, Korea. We're still in Korea because that war is unfinished. I mean, people tend to forget, Ruthie, No. There's an armistice. There's still a state of war between North and South Korea because we chose not to finish it. It's like, yeah. We're just kind of go halfway. And I think that halfway attitude is what gets people in trouble. And by the way, I think so many things we have done to hold the Jewish state back isn't appropriate. I think Hamas should have been dealt with a year ago, Ruthie. The fact that we're coming up on a 2-year anniversary, to me, what is cut and dry, black and white, Hamas is evil. And I'm going to say something here. I'll give you the last 5 minutes to talk about it. I feel terrible that you have 20 live hostages still left. I do. I think it's terrible. But I don't think Hamas is ever going to give them up because Hamas knows, Ruthie, the moment they give them up, they're dead. So if you're not going to give them up, the only choice you have left is go in and take them, right? I mean, what else do you have in the way of choices?
No, you're absolutely right. And I'll say something else that sounds harsh. For those 20 hostages, and again, really, our hearts always go out to everybody feels that way about them, right? And it was through no fault of their own that they were abducted and they're living in horrific conditions.
Right.
But there are 20 live hostages. And do you know how many soldiers have been killed trying to rescue them and trying to defeat Hamas? Many more than that. And many more are going to get killed. And I have to tell you, a year ago we should have done it. Let me tell you, what about 11 years ago? In 2014, now I have a son who in reserve duty, you know how many times he fought in Gaza and in Lebanon? And he's approaching 40 years old. He spent most of this war in uniform in Gaza, lost several of his comrades. And think about that for a minute. 11 years ago when he was fighting in Gaza, we left early. Israel ended with a ceasefire, etc. And when Netanyahu, right after the massacre on October 7th, was asked, well, if you feel this way, because he said, Hamas is ISIS, and we always knew it. He said, well, really, if you knew it, then where were you 10 years ago? Why didn't you finish the job in 2014? And his answer was, we would not have had legitimacy inside Israel or in the international arena. Now, he's right about that. But guess what? Even that massacre didn't give us legitimacy. And now, the longer it's taking, the less legitimacy it's being given, even though what he's doing is being very careful. He's the hostage families who are angry at him blame him for everything, even though he keeps stopping the war to enable hostage releases. Now, I was against those deals. And if I had a kid who was held hostage, maybe I wouldn't have been. I don't know. But what I can say is, at least they could understand, instead of attacking him every 5 minutes, to say, okay, he put the rest of us at risk in order to free some of the hostages. So there's where it mystifies me.
So I think that's the fact is the end game is afoot. I think the Israeli military, the IDF, despite, and it's like I said, I don't know why you have former members of the Mossad and IDF saying, oh, this is a bad idea. It's like, it's the only option left. Hamas is not going to negotiate. You have no other options. And yet somehow this pervasive Israeli left is still defeatist. If it was up to them, this would go on for another 2 years, right? I mean, they just don't get it.
Not if they were still in power. Okay, let me tell you something. They lost power, basically. The left in Israel lost power in 1977 when Menachem Begin became prime minister. They haven't gotten over that. And one of the things they say is, well, the public doesn't know how to vote. The public is bad. The public is low class.
I said that here.
Yeah, exactly.
Same, very similar.
Exactly. Yeah. They believe that they are the elites of society. They're the cream of the crop.
Huh.
And, if you didn't go to Harvard, what do you know? And how dare you vote for Trump or something? They're the ones who are out of touch. But trust me on this. The former prime ministers who are joining in that disgusting anti-Israel chorus, if they were still in power, they'd be blitzing the crap out of Gaza.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, I think that's the thing. We have to accept that there are no other options left. The only option is to go in and to recover as many of the hostages who are alive as possible through a series of special operations. Otherwise, you can't continue to have a cancerous growth on the body of Israel. You can't. You got to cut it out.
Correct.
I hate to sound that blunt, but you got to do it. So
True. I agree completely.
Oh, look, they had their chance. It's not like, see, this is something people do not talk about. It's not like Netanyahu didn't stretch out an olive branch to them months beforehand. You see, he tried to negotiate. He tried to work with Hamas leadership. He tried to work with Palestinian leaders. But this is the thanks he got.
Absolutely. And believe me, every Israeli leader beforehand has tried everything. Okay, since 1947. Okay, we'll agree to split the territory. Okay, that they refuse constantly, because I want to tell you something. Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, there's two things I want to say about him. He's been in power I don't know, he was supposed to be in power 4 years and have elections, and he's been there, I don't know, 18 years or something. And here's the reason he won't have elections, because he knows that Hamas will win in the Palestinian Authority. That's number one. Number two, he doesn't want a state. His so-called striving for a state while trying to annihilate Israel, his striving for statehood gave him all this cachet on the international stage. He's applauded at the UN, etc., etc. It's the striving he likes. He doesn't, you think he wants a state, you think he wants to worry about roads and delivering, collecting garbage and doing all the things you need to do as a state. No, he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, it's been a great discussion this morning, Ruthie. Ruthie Blum, thank you for joining us as always. We appreciate your perspective and leadership on this. We are scratching our heads, Ruthie, both by the American Jews and Israel Jews, not accepting the fact that sometimes you just have to make hard decisions and go after and kill people because you got to, because otherwise they're going to kill you.
Self-defense. That's it.
Yeah.
Self-defense. Self-defense.
Yeah, that's it. And and I'd like to thank you too for having me. I always love joining you guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You say you're scratching your head, but I'm tearing my hair out.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you. And Karen, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll see you again soon. And Kirsten, I guess I'll see you again tomorrow morning.
We'll be here tomorrow.
That's right.
So anyway, Karen, it was nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you, Ruthie. It was a great discussion.
You guys have a lot in discussion. You guys have a lot.
We do. We have a lot in common. I'm already thinking my wheels are spinning. I'm like, where else can Ruthie pop up?
That's right. So, and Ruthie, I hope they pair us soon on Newsmax again so we can talk this out. Hopefully this will be
I would love that. But let me tell you something, Karen, just so you should know, with all this identity politics, I identify as a thin, tall, blonde.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that.
And
we're twinning.
I snap my fingers and I identify, and then I become you.
I'm not tall though. That's the only thing. You might be losing on the height differential over here.
If I identified that way, I'd be reading stories to kids.
Guys.
Well, I identify. No, I'm thinking about putting my pronouns back on my Twitter, my X bio. Apocalypse Now. So it's a different story. So anyway, we'll go. All right. Well, good seeing you all. Patriots, thanks for being here. We'll see you all tomorrow. And again, thanks for being here and letting us educate you.